Dear Lord, for every mother carrying more than her heart was meant to hold, give her strength. For every father learning too late how to love, give him humility. And for every child caught between the two, may their joy never be borrowed, never be broken. Amen. Welcome back to Mr. Comfort Stories, your home of comfort, where life's most powerful lessons come wrapped in unforgettable tales. If this story touches your heart today, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to stay with us. Because sometimes, love doesn't show up when it's convenient. It shows up when it's required. The door opened slowly. White coat, name tag, clipboard in hand, but his eyes didn't fall on the chart. They landed on her, Keisha, and, beside her, a little girl with curls like cotton and a face he didn't need a test to recognize. Lisa, the woman he abandoned, and the child he didn't know, both in one room, waiting to be seen. Dr. Jeff Donnelly, board-certified pediatrician with awards in child behavior and empathy training, stood frozen like his own past had just walked in, braided, brown-skinned, and beautiful. Keisha didn't blink. She crossed one leg over the other, raised an eyebrow, and said just loud enough for the room to hear, "Well, the universe got jokes." Lisa pointed at him and giggled. "Mama, this doctor kinda looks like me." Jeff's grip tightened on the clipboard. His throat dried. His heart, which usually beat steadily through emergencies and evaluations, stuttered. Because 5 years after he walked away from the woman who called to say she was pregnant, her daughter was now in his exam room, calling him doctor, and he had no idea what to say. Have you ever made a decision you thought you buried, only for it to walk back into your life wearing unicorn tights? Have you ever spent years becoming successful, only to realize you failed at the one thing that mattered? Jeff thought he had closed that chapter. He thought he could build a new life, craft a new name, hide behind white coats and polished degrees. But fate doesn't need an invitation. Sometimes it just knocks, and sometimes it books an appointment. Keisha hadn't chased him. She didn't beg. She didn't even call back after that night. She carried their child alone, birthed her alone, and raised her alone. While Jeff published articles about parental bonds, Keisha was tying sneakers, managing asthma meds, and writing notes in lunchboxes. While he shook hands at conferences, she was holding small fingers through night fevers. She did all of it without him. And now, he had the nerve to walk in and say, "Hi, I'm Dr. Donnelly. I'll be seeing you today." Keisha didn't flinch. She murmured. Life's got a twisted sense of humor. So now the question isn't how they got here. It's what happens next. What do you do when the man who left your womb full and your hands empty comes back wearing a name badge and trying to examine the child he never met? What do you do when your daughter giggles and says, "He funny, mama. He got my smile," and your heart doesn't know whether to melt or break? Do you open the door, for her sake, or do you close it to protect what little peace you've built? Today's story asks you to sit in that tension, to walk that tightrope between past hurt and possible healing. Because Keisha didn't plan for this appointment, but sometimes the heart schedules its own confrontations. If you've ever had to see someone again after they walked away from your life, tell us in the comments, what would you do? Would you let them in for your child, or lock that door for your healing? Drop your thoughts below. And now, let's go back to the very beginning, to the heat of a Harlem summer, to a bathroom with cracked tile, to the moment 2 pink lines changed everything. The room was hot, the kind of sticky Harlem heat that made ceiling fans feel useless. But Keisha stood still, staring at the test in her hand, as if blinking too fast might change the results. 2 pink lines. Bold, unapologetic. She sat down on the edge of the tub, cracked tile digging into her thigh through her leggings. Her hand rested on her stomach, not protectively, yet, but gently, like a question mark that hadn't turned into a period. She whispered, "Okay." Then she said it again, stronger, "Okay." Because that's what you do when your world flips over and no one's there to catch you. You inhale, you press your feet into the ground, and you say something, anything, that sounds like control. The apartment was quiet, save for the humming window unit struggling against August air. Outside, someone was blasting Frankie Beverly, and 2 floors down, a couple was arguing in Spanglish. Life was continuing. But inside her bathroom, Keisha's life had just paused. She glanced again at the stick, then reached for her phone. Her fingers hesitated above Jeff's name. There wasn't a picture saved with it. No heart emoji. Just Jeff Donnelly. Professional. Cold. But that wasn't how he made her feel. Not before this. When he held her in the quiet of his on-call nights. When he kissed her behind the curtain in the mobile clinic. When he said her plantains were better than anything he'd had in the Hamptons. But feelings aren't facts. And right now the fact was she was pregnant. So she hit call. Jeff picked up on the second ring. He sounded like he'd just come from a workout. That calm, collected voice of his, with a little rasp that usually gave her goosebumps. Keish? Hey, I'm pregnant. The silence hit like a slammed door. She heard the faint sound of a Keurig machine hissing in the background. He didn't speak. She didn't soften. It's confirmed. 5 weeks. I got the ultrasound today. More silence. Jeff's voice finally came, low and controlled. Okay. Okay. So, what are you thinking? That's when she felt her face twist, the sting in her throat rising up. What am I thinking? Jeff, this isn't a pair of shoes I accidentally bought. This is a child. Our child. I know. It's just, this is sudden. I'm about to wrap up residency. I have interviews lined up. Chicago, Boston. This could really complicate things. Keisha's jaw clenched. Oh, I'm sorry, she said, her voice tight. Is my uterus interrupting your schedule? Jeff sighed. Keisha, come on, I'm just being honest. No, Jeff, you're being selfish. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. But every word landed like a slap. I didn't make this baby by myself, and I'm not calling to beg. I'm calling because I thought maybe, just maybe, you'd want to know you created a life. I'm not saying I don't care. I don't know if I'm ready to be a father. Her hand dropped from her stomach. And her heart. It didn't just break. It cracked open in a way she knew would scar. You think I am? She said quietly. You think I planned this? I work 2 jobs, Jeff. I sleep 4 hours a night. I eat leftovers 3 days in a row. But when I saw those 2 lines, I didn't think about fear. I thought about responsibility. I'm not trying to be cold. You're not trying to be anything, she snapped. That's the problem. Jeff's voice dropped even lower. Do you want to consider other options? The words landed so loud in her ears, they almost knocked her off the tub. She stood up. Other options? She repeated, blinking slowly. Keisha, I'm keeping this baby. Keisha, she cut him off, grabbing her keys from the sink. I didn't call for your permission. I called because I thought you were better than this. She walked through her hallway like it was a courtroom and every step was a closing argument. I thought you were the man who laughed at my dad jokes and learned how to wrap a headscarf because you wanted to surprise me. I thought maybe, just maybe, you could rise to this moment. Jeff was still on the line. Keisha, don't do this. She opened her front door. The air hit her face like a second slap. You can't guilt me into fatherhood, he said. She paused at that, then turned around and said, clear and slow. Jeff Donnelly, let me tell you something. I've had to fight for every piece of good in my life. My degree? I earned that while working nights at a shelter. My peace? I protected like rent money. And this child, she put her hand back on her stomach. This child is mine, not because I planned it, but because I accepted. There was no noise from his end, only breath. Uncertain, hesitant, cowardly. And then, I'm not ready. Keisha inhaled, long and slow. Then don't be, she whispered. She hung up, walked down the stairs, and let the door close behind her. Not gently, but not with rage either, with resolve, with finality. And Jeff? Jeff didn't call back. Not that night, not the next, not ever. The bathroom mirror stopped being a place for makeup. It became a countdown clock. Each morning, Keisha traced the stretch of her belly with cocoa butter and hope. No ultrasound photo on the fridge, no baby shower registry, just a printed checklist on the back of an old envelope and a sticky note that read, "You are more than enough." The city didn't slow down for pregnancy. The subway still stank. The rent still climbed. Her job at the non-profit still needed her to clock in on time, swollen feet or not. But life was growing. Inside her, without apology, without Jeff. Keisha didn't block his number. She didn't rage text. She didn't chase silence with desperation. She simply stopped calling, and he never started. Month by month, the Harlem heat faded into autumn wind. Her scarf collection grew. So did the whispers from neighbors and aunties, and the women at church who'd known her since she was Kiki with the afro puffs. "Where's the daddy? You got help? You okay, baby?" She answered each question with the same thing, a smile and a deep breath. Because truthfully, no, she wasn't okay. Not all the time. Not when she threw up in the morning and still had to stand in line at the pharmacy. Not when she sat alone at the birthing class while couples massaged each other's backs. But she was present. And sometimes presence was enough. Her sister Tiana became her second spine. She showed up every Sunday with food, foot rubs, and unsolicited advice. "You gotta name that baby with power," she said one day, pulling a bonnet over Keisha's curls. "Not some soft name. Something that walks into rooms and doesn't flinch." Keisha chuckled, flipping through baby name sites on her cracked tablet. "What? You don't like Nevea? Girl, that is heaven backwards and common as toast. That child deserves better." Keisha thought long and hard about that. A name that meant something. A name that carried everything she wanted this baby to know before the world tried to teach her otherwise. She chose Lisa. It meant, "God is my oath," because Keisha had made a promise to her unborn child the night Jeff failed her, and she didn't need anyone else to seal it. Lisa Monroe entered the world on a Wednesday morning. Not peacefully, not quietly. She came in screaming under the flicker of hospital lights, her full head of hair matted with sweat and strength. Keisha cried the second she heard her, not just because of pain or joy, but because this was the first sound her daughter had ever made, and it wasn't soft. It was powerful. The nurse placed the baby on her chest. Keisha looked down, her voice cracking. "Hey, baby girl," she whispered. "You didn't miss nothing. Mama's here." No one came to visit. No flowers arrived. No father signed the birth certificate. Just Keisha, her sister, and a new life wrapped in hospital-issued swaddles. But in that small room, with peeling paint and gospel music humming from the nurse's speaker, love filled every corner. The early months were a blur. Milk-stained shirts, crib assembly videos at 2 a.m., pacifiers lost under the couch. Keisha learned to rock Lisa with one hand and write intake forms with the other. She took on part-time shifts at a crisis shelter to supplement her income from the non-profit. Some days she was too tired to cry. Other days she let the tears fall while Lisa slept, chest rising like she didn't have a care in the world. But when her daughter laughed, everything softened. Lisa giggled like the world owed her nothing and gave her everything. Her smile came easy, her fussiness rare, and her attachment to Keisha immediate. They became a unit, mother and daughter, warrior and sunshine. Jeff never called. Keisha stopped checking. But sometimes, when Lisa would fall asleep in her arms, hand clutching the collar of Keisha's shirt, she'd stare at her daughter's face and see pieces that weren't hers. The nose, the lashes, the smirk. And in those moments, Keisha didn't hate Jeff. She just accepted him as absence, as lesson, as history. She couldn't raise Lisa while staring at a closed door. So she built a new house, emotionally, financially, spiritually, brick by brick. By the time Lisa turned 2, she was already schooling adults. "Mama, that man ain't say excuse me," she once declared loudly in the bodega. "Lisa, shh. He rude, Mama. You said if they bump you, they got to say it. The man turned. Keisha apologized. Lisa folded her arms. Still rude. At 3, Lisa started narrating her own life. I'm Lisa Monroe, and I'm wearing my sparkly jacket today because I'm important. At 4, she asked if Santa had a dermatologist. Because his nose is real red, Mama. He needs some cocoa butter or something. Keisha laughed every single day, even on the hard ones. While Lisa bloomed in Harlem, Jeff thrived on the other side of the city. He earned his fellowship, published a paper on early childhood behavioral health, dated a woman who worked in philanthropy, and introduced him to quinoa. He took smiling photos at pediatric conferences. He became Dr. Donnelly in respected circles, but deep down he knew. There was a quiet corner of his heart he avoided. The part that remembered Keisha's stare, her voice, her refusal to let fear dictate her future. He buried it, or tried to, until fate stopped letting him. One night, Lisa developed a mild rash on her neck. Keisha assumed it was nothing, soap, maybe. But days later, it spread. Then came the cough. She visited urgent care twice. They gave creams, shrugged it off, but the wheezing started. She called her sister. I don't like how she sounds when she sleeps. Tiana urged her to escalate. So Keisha went to the local clinic where a nurse practitioner reviewed Lisa's history and referred her to a new pediatric pulmonary specialist uptown. Don't worry, the nurse said. They're amazing. New practice. Private backed but community integrated. Real progressive stuff. Keisha hesitated. Private? They have sliding scale. You'll qualify. The nurse handed her a brochure. Lisa tugged at Keisha's sleeve. Mama, they got fish in the lobby? Keisha sighed. I'll book it. She didn't know it yet, but that appointment, that brochure, that wheeze in the middle of the night, was about to put her right back in the path of the man she hadn't seen in 5 years. The man who missed the first kick, the first cry, the first birthday, and would soon see the first child he never knew he fathered. The clinic smelled like money and mint, not peppermint, not Vicks, but that soft, barely there kind of scent that told you someone rich had approved it in a meeting. Keisha held Lisa's hand as they walked past glass walls, sleek marble, floors, and potted plants that looked too expensive to be real. Lisa was bouncing in her unicorn tights, a sticker book under one arm, and confidence in every step. Mama, look, they got fish, real ones. Don't tap the glass, Keisha warned, scanning the waiting room. You know rich people fish got anxiety. Lisa giggled like she had a secret. They checked in, waited. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Lisa swung her legs. Keisha flipped through a parenting magazine and judged its unrealistic snack ideas. Chia pudding in a mason jar? Not in her house. Then the door opened. And time. Paused. White coat. Blue thread embroidery on the chest. Dr. J. Donnelly. Jeff. He looked different. Older. Slightly leaner. Less polished around the edges, like life had done some sanding. His eyes scanned the room, clipboard in hand. They landed on Keisha, then dipped, slowly, to Lisa. His face didn't change, but his body did. Shoulders pulled back, knees stiffened. Miss Monroe? His voice cracked on the last syllable. Keisha raised an eyebrow. You gonna stand there looking like a deer, or get to doctoring? Lisa grinned. Mama, this doctor looks like me. Jeff blinked rapidly, like someone had dropped him in a memory he wasn't ready for. He stepped aside. Right this way. Keisha stood slowly, her grip tightening on Lisa's hand. They followed him down a hallway lined with cartoon murals and child-height coat hooks. Lisa twirled. Jeff didn't speak. Keisha didn't look at him. The exam room was bright and clean, with a wall of kid-friendly posters. Lisa climbed onto the paper-covered table like she'd done it 100 times. Let's start with your breathing, okay? Jeff's voice was measured, but his hands shook slightly as he pressed the stethoscope to Lisa's chest. She took deep breaths, like a pro. He listened. Again. longer this time, then checked her ears, her eyes, her reflexes. Lisa giggled when he tapped her knee. That tickles. Jeff smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He stepped back, looked down at the chart. Lisa Monroe, he said slowly. Keisha folded her arms. That's right, Monroe. There was weight in her voice. Heavy, final. He looked at her then, fully. 5 years of distance crumbled in that moment. His eyes were glassy. She's mine. Keisha didn't blink. Took you long enough to catch up. She's 5. You left 5 years ago. Do the math. Lisa tilted her head. Mama, what's happening? Keisha walked over, ran a hand down Lisa's back. Nothing, baby. Just boring grown-up stuff. You're doing amazing. Jeff crouched, coming eye to eye with her. Lisa, it's very nice to meet you. You're very brave. Lisa grinned. Mama says I'm spicy, but holy. Jeff laughed. A genuine sound. The kind he hadn't made in years. That sounds about right, he whispered. Keisha's eyes narrowed. Don't get comfortable. He stood. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, voice lower now, quieter. I did, she replied. 5 years ago. Remember the call where you asked if I was considering other options? His face fell. I didn't know what to do. You knew how to disappear, Keisha snapped. You mastered that part. I panicked. You abandoned. They stood in silence. Lisa was humming softly to herself, flipping through her sticker book on the exam table. Jeff looked at her again. I missed everything. Keisha nodded. You did. First words, first steps. First time she said she wanted to be a butterfly when she grew up. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't rewind time. No, he said softly. But maybe it opens a door. She laughed once. Dry, hollow, doors closed, windows sealed. She has a roof over her head without your help. I want to be here. Now. Keisha tilted her head. Convenient timing. I didn't know she existed. You didn't want to know. Jeff stepped closer, dropping the clipboard on the counter. She's beautiful, he whispered. She's strong, Keisha corrected. She gets that from me. Lisa looked up. Mama, can I have a lollipop now? Keisha walked over and opened the little drawer labeled prizes. She handed Lisa a grape-flavored pop. Lisa ripped it open. Thank you. Jeff watched her like he'd discovered oxygen for the first time. Then he looked back at Keisha. You really did this all on your own. Because I had to, she said. You made that clear. He swallowed hard. I wasn't ready. You think I was? She whispered. I didn't get to be ready, Jeff. I got pregnant. I got scared. And I got up anyway. Jeff turned back to Lisa. She's perfect. She's protected, Keisha corrected. Don't confuse the two. He hesitated. I want to help. Keisha raised an eyebrow. With what? She doesn't need 2 Christmas presents. She needs consistency, presence, trust. I know. You know nothing. Her voice cracked a little then, and she turned away to collect Lisa's bag. Lisa jumped off the table, landed on squeaky sneakers. Dr. Jeff, she said with a mouthful of lollipop, can I come back here next time? Jeff smiled, his heart folding in on itself. I'd like that. Keisha looked at him, eyes sharp. You might not be her regular. I don't make promises to strangers. I'm not a stranger. Not to me, she said. But to her, you are. There was a pause. Jeff exhaled. Can we talk? Outside. Please. Keisha stared at him for a long moment, then nodded once. 5 minutes. Don't get slick. She turned to Lisa. Wait here, baby. Mama's just stepping out with the doctor. Lisa nodded. Okay, I'll finish my stickers. Jeff opened the door. Keisha followed, but not before she looked back at Lisa and whispered, more to herself than anyone else, Lisa Monroe. Because the man she came from didn't earn naming rights. The sun was too bright for this kind of conversation. Outside the Midtown clinic, the sidewalk bustled with noise, taxis honking, strollers rolling. a man with a Bluetooth headset barking about stock prices. Keisha stood still, arms crossed over her chest, as Jeff closed the exam room door behind him and followed her outside. The moment the door shut, the air between them changed. It wasn't medical anymore. It wasn't polite. It was personal. Jeff cleared his throat. "Keisha!" She turned before he could finish. "You've got 5 minutes, and I'm only here because Lisa's still inside." His hands were jammed into his coat pockets like he didn't trust them not to shake. "I didn't know," he said. "I swear, I didn't know she was—" "Jeff," her voice stopped him. Not loud, but sharp. "You knew I was pregnant. You just didn't care to follow up." His mouth opened, closed. She didn't give him room to fumble. "You heard me say 5 weeks. You heard me say confirmed. You heard me say baby." "I was scared." Keisha exhaled, slow and bitter. "I was too. Difference is, I showed up, alone. I thought you'd call again. I thought you'd be a man." That one hit. Jeff looked down at the concrete. "I regret it," he said finally. Keisha folded her arms tighter. "Do you regret what you did, or that you can't undo it?" He looked up. "I regret not being there for her first steps, for her first words, for you." Keisha's jaw tightened. "Don't romanticize this. You don't get to rewrite the story because you're uncomfortable with how you played the villain." Jeff winced. "I didn't mean—" "I don't care what you meant." Her voice cracked, just slightly. "You asked me to consider other options. You stood in a luxury kitchen with coffee in your hand and told me my child was inconvenient. I was a coward. You still might be." They stood there, face to face, on a patch of Manhattan sidewalk where stories were, usually told by shoes and bus schedules, not by ex-lovers and surprised daughters. Jeff finally spoke again, quieter this time. "I want to know her." Keisha's eyes narrowed. "Why?" He blinked. "What? Why, Jeff? Because you feel guilty? Because she looks like you? Because your conscience started working again now that you have a corner office and a health plan?" "No," he said. "Because I saw her, and something in me cracked open. She deserves to know her father." "You're not her father," Keisha said. "You're her biological contributor. There's a difference." Jeff's shoulders slumped, but he didn't walk away. "And you think saying the right thing will fix it?" She pressed. "No," he said, "but maybe showing up will." That made her pause. "Say that again." "I'm not asking you to let me in," he said. "I'm saying I'll earn it. One step at a time. I'll show up. No big speeches, no drama, no pressure." Keisha watched him carefully. Lisa doesn't need confusion. She doesn't need new promises. She needs presence, real presence. Jeff nodded. "I understand. You don't get to be her dad today. You get to try to be someone she can trust. That's it." He swallowed hard. "That's enough. For now." Keisha let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "And, Jeff?" "Yes? If you disappoint her," she stepped forward, voice low, fire behind her eyes, "you'll wish all you lost was a relationship." Jeff nodded again. "I hear you. Do you?" "Yes." "Good." They stood silently for a beat. Taxi horns filled the gap. Finally, Keisha said, "You can walk us to the car, quietly, like a grown man who knows he messed up." Jeff nodded again. They walked back in. Lisa was coloring on the corner of the paper roll that lined the exam table. "Mama, I drew you with a crown." "Look." Keisha smiled. "Ooh, baby, I love it." Jeff looked over her shoulder. "And, is that me?" Lisa giggled. "That's the doctor. He got big ears." Jeff laughed softly. "You're not wrong." Keisha grabbed the bag. "Let's go." Lisa reached up for her hand, then stretched the other out toward Jeff. "Mama says, hold hands when you cross the street." Jeff looked at Keisha. She gave a short nod. He took Lisa's tiny hand in his. Outside, the traffic hadn't changed. But something else had. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. It was a beginning. Jeff didn't text that night. He didn't call. He didn't try to force the door open with emotional shortcuts. Instead, 2 days later, an envelope showed up at Keisha's apartment. Handwritten. No flashy logo. No flowers. Inside was a children's book. I Am Every Good Thing. Lisa's name was written carefully on the inside cover, in Jeff's handwriting, followed by, "Hi Lisa, I thought you'd like this book. If not, maybe your dolls will read it to each other at night. Dr. J." Keisha stared at the note for a long time. No begging, no explanations, just a quiet offering. Lisa loved it. She made Keisha read it 3 times that night, then tucked it under her pillow like it was a secret. The next day, Jeff sent an email. Just a few lines. I looked up her condition again. There's a new humidifier model with a built-in purifier that might help. No pressure, just information. Keisha didn't respond, not because she was ignoring him, but because she was watching. She'd seen apologies before. She wanted proof. 3 weeks passed. Jeff didn't vanish. He didn't overstep. He checked in once a week, sometimes with a question, sometimes with a joke for Lisa. And when the flyer went out for the Community Rec Center fundraiser, Jeff didn't ask for an invitation. He asked, "How can I support?" Keisha gave him the flyer. He showed up early, not dressed in his usual pressed shirt and polished shoes. He wore jeans, a hoodie, slightly wrinkled, like a man who wanted to blend in instead of stand out. Keisha noticed. So did the aunties. "That him?" one whispered. Keisha didn't answer. Lisa spotted him first. "Dr. Jeff," she shouted, running across the gym floor like she'd spotted a celebrity. Jeff squatted, arms open. She ran into his chest with all the force her little legs could muster. "You came." "Of course," he said. "I had to see this famous artist everyone keeps talking about." Lisa giggled. "I painted a rainbow tiger." Jeff laughed. "That sounds terrifying and beautiful." She grabbed his hand. "Come see." Keisha watched from across the gym. Her arms were crossed, but her eyes weren't cold. They were calculating. She didn't trust easily. Especially not now. Especially not him. The fundraiser was simple. Painted faces, music, raffles for homemade pies. Lisa dragged Jeff to the art table. "Sit," she commanded, pulling out a metal folding chair. Jeff obeyed. Lisa dipped a paintbrush in orange. "You're gonna be a tiger." "Like mine." Jeff nodded solemnly. "I trust the artist." Keisha nearly dropped her water bottle when she looked over 10 minutes later. There he was, Jeff Donnelly. White coat, pediatrician, uptown clinic. Face painted with stripes, glitter on his cheeks, and tiny rainbow whiskers curling off his nose. Lisa stood beside him, proud as a queen unveiling her sculpture. "Everyone," she announced, "look at my tiger." Laughter erupted. Phones came out. One of the volunteers walked by and whispered to Keisha, "He's either really in love with that child or really bad at saying no." Keisha didn't smile, but her eyes softened, a little. After the face painting, Jeff helped run the juice station. He stood behind the table like a high school volunteer, popping lids off juice boxes and whispering jokes to the kids in line. One little boy spilled grape punch on Jeff's sneakers. Jeff handed him a napkin, patted his back and whispered, "It's okay. I've made worse messes." Keisha heard that. She heard everything. Later, Jeff spotted her sitting on the bleachers alone, sipping from a paper cup. He approached slowly. "Hey, tiger face and all," she said dryly. "I lost a bet. To a 5-year-old? She's ruthless." Keisha raised an eyebrow. "She gets that from me." Jeff smiled, then sat, not too close, not too eager. "Thanks for not kicking me out. I thought about it." He nodded. "Fair." There was silence, not awkward, just full. Jeff turned his head slightly. "She's incredible." "I know. She's kind, confident, smart. All of it. She's also stubborn, bossy, and emotional when she's tired." Jeff laughed. "Like someone I used to know." Keisha didn't respond. He studied her. "How did you do it?" Keisha's eyes stayed forward. One prayer, one bill, one nightlight at a time. He nodded again. I'd like to keep showing up. Not for you. For her. That's the only reason I'd consider it. I don't want to disappoint her. Keisha finally turned to him. Then don't. They locked eyes. Jeff didn't blink. She broke the gaze first. Lisa ran over, pulling glitter with her. Dr. Jeff, I painted your arm now. He looked down. Sure enough, a streak of green paint ran down his hoodie sleeve. Well, there goes my modeling career. Lisa giggled. You're silly. Keisha stood. Let's go, baby. It's bedtime. Lisa grabbed her book bag. You coming again? Jeff hesitated. Keisha answered for him. Maybe. If he's serious, Jeff nodded. I'm serious. Lisa waved. Bye, Dr. Jeff. He waved back. See you soon, boss. That night, Keisha lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Tiana texted. So, he real or he pretending? Keisha stared at the screen before replying. Not sure. But he didn't flinch when grape juice hit him. That's something. Jeff didn't come every day after that. But when he said he would show up, he did. He sent books Lisa liked. He checked in about her cough. He emailed to ask if she was allergic to anything before sending over snacks. Nothing grand. No sudden I'm ready to be a full-time dad speeches. Just small things. Thoughtful things. Effort without entitlement. Presence without pressure. One week, he sent Lisa a postcard from a medical conference. It read, Dear Lisa, I met a giraffe at the zoo today who reminded me of you. She stood tall and didn't care what anyone thought. That's a good way to be. Dr. J. Lisa slept with it under her pillow. Keisha didn't say anything, but she didn't throw it away either. At the next clinic checkup, Lisa was healthier. Her breathing was stable. The rash had cleared. Jeff looked at the chart and smiled. She's strong. Keisha nodded. She's 5. She lifts emotional weight for breakfast. He smiled. She gets that from you. Keisha grabbed her purse. She gets what she needs from whoever's willing to give it. Jeff opened the door for them. Lisa waved. And Keisha? She didn't say goodbye. But she didn't slam the door either. She left it ajar, just wide enough for him to try again. Culture Day at Lisa's school was always a big deal. Flyers went out a month in advance. Parents were expected to bring food, wear cultural clothes, and talk about traditions. Last year, one dad brought a full drum set. A grandma did a praise dance. The Johnson twins came dressed as 2 halves of a jollof pot, rice grains painted on their overalls. Lisa, of course, had plans. Big ones. I'm gonna wear my sparkly kente skirt and tell everybody about how we eat fufu with our hands. Keisha nodded. Just don't go embarrassing folks. We don't slap food, we scoop. Lisa grinned. I scoop real pretty. She had already drawn her presentation poster, a crayon picture of Keisha in a head wrap and Lisa holding a bowl. In the corner, she'd scribbled a third figure. Tall. Smiling. Keisha squinted. Who's this? Lisa shrugged. Somebody. Maybe Dr. Jeff. Keisha didn't answer. She didn't erase it either. Jeff had found out about Culture Day from Lisa herself. They were in the clinic waiting room for a routine follow-up when she blurted it out. We get to eat stuff from around the world. Mama's making jollof. You can come too if you wear jeans. Jeff blinked. Why jeans? 'Cause your work pants too tight. They make you look scared of dancing. Keisha had been sitting quietly, scrolling through her phone, but that made her chuckle, softly. The first laugh he'd heard from her since Lisa's diagnosis. He tucked that sound away. Later that night, he texted, I'd like to come to Culture Day. Can I bring something? Keisha replied with one word, try. Jeff showed up late, not disrespectfully late, just barely beating the announcement late. Keisha was already there in a mustard yellow wrap dress, head wrapped, standing near the food table. Her jollof was already a hit. Parents were asking for her spice-level secrets. Lisa was in her element, twirling in a colorful skirt, beads in her hair clicking like applause. Jeff walked in carrying a Tupperware container, looking nervous and very white. Not just racially, culturally. He had on jeans, a button-down that clearly hadn't seen an iron. And the tray? Oh, no, Keisha muttered when she saw it. Lisa ran to him. Dr. Jeff. He grinned. Hey, superstar. Lisa peered into the tray. What's that? Jeff crouched. Gluten-free banana bread. Lisa wrinkled her nose. Keisha walked over, arms folded. Is that what you brought to Culture Day? Jeff stood, sheepish. I panicked. The recipe said it was a crowd pleaser. Keisha looked down at the barely brown squares. Did the crowd have taste buds? Jeff chuckled nervously. It's from a blog. Lisa poked one. It's squishy. Keisha leaned in, voice low. You show up to a room full of grandmas with seasoning in their DNA, and you bring banana sponge. I tried, Jeff said defensively. It's from scratch. Scratch ain't got flavor, Keisha replied, but her eyes were dancing. Lisa took a bite, made a face, whispered, Don't eat it, Mama. Jeff sighed. Okay, I deserve that. Keisha surprised herself by laughing, not just a smirk, a real belly laugh. It caught her off guard. She covered her mouth. Lisa looked between them. You two are funny. Jeff smiled. It's been a while since we made your mama laugh. Keisha didn't reply, but she didn't stop smiling either. During the presentations, Lisa took the mic with full 5-year-old confidence. This is my mama. She makes the best rice ever. This is Dr. Jeff. He's my other grown-up. He tries. Everyone chuckled. Jeff waved awkwardly. Keisha muttered, She's not wrong. Lisa continued. My grandma said, when you know your roots, you grow better. So I made a tree. She held up her poster. It showed her in the middle. Keisha on one side, bright colors, a big smile. And Jeff on the other, with a stethoscope and a banana in his hand. Jeff squinted. Am I holding fruit? Lisa nodded. That's your bread. It's part of my culture now. Keisha burst out laughing again. Even Jeff smiled. Maybe Culture Day wasn't about perfection. Maybe it was about effort. As the event wound down, parents trickled out with empty trays and tired kids. Rain started falling lightly. Keisha stood under the awning with Lisa, waiting for a rideshare. Jeff joined them, hoodie pulled over his head. I got rained on getting here, he said, shivering. Serves you right, Keisha teased. That banana bread was an act of war. I panicked. You keep saying that. One day you'll learn to plan. Lisa pulled her hood up. I want to jump in puddles. Not in those shoes, Keisha said. Jeff looked at the sidewalk, at the misty streetlights reflecting in shallow water. He turned to Keisha. Do you want to ride together? I can get a car. She hesitated. The rain picked up. Lisa started humming to herself, making rain beat patterns on the metal railing. Fine, Keisha said, but you sit in the front. Your banana sins haven't been forgiven yet. Jeff chuckled. Deal. In the car, Lisa fell asleep halfway through the drive. Keisha sat in the back with her, head against the window. Jeff glanced back once. She was resting, not relaxed, not yet, but not defensive either. He looked ahead, rain tapping the windshield. He didn't speak, just drove, quietly, carefully, present. By the time they pulled up to Keisha's building, the rain had slowed. Jeff opened the back door, helped Lisa out without waking her. Keisha took her daughter in her arms. She's heavy, he said. She's mine, Keisha replied. Jeff nodded. I'll text when I get home, he said. Keisha looked at him, then down at Lisa's soft curls resting on her chest. You didn't do too bad, she said. Except the bread. That was criminal, he laughed. Keisha climbed the steps. At the top, she paused, turned around. Jeff, yeah? Next time, ask somebody black before you bake. He laughed harder, noted. She disappeared inside. Jeff stood in the rain for a second, then whispered to himself, one smile, 2 laughs. We're getting somewhere. The rec center smelled like popcorn and memories. It was family fun night, The kind of community event where kids ran loose with sticky fingers and somebody's uncle always got too serious about the three-legged race. Tables were covered in mismatched plastic tablecloths, and the speakers crackled with 90 seconds R&B that made you want to call someone you swore you were over. Keisha was standing near the juice station, watching Lisa dance with reckless joy in the center of the gym. Her sparkly sneakers lit up with every step, her beads clicking to the beat like percussion. Jeff was across the room, pretending to study the raffle prizes. Keisha had seen him come in earlier. Khakis, navy pullover, no tie. She clocked the nervous energy in his steps, the way he hovered at the edge of conversations. He wasn't used to rooms like this. No catered snacks, no fundraising agenda, just people, noise, and enough laughter to raise the roof. Lisa spotted him, of course. Dr. Jeff. She squealed, waving like she was flagging down a plane. He waved back, unsure if he should cross the room. Keisha didn't wave, but she didn't frown either. Baby steps. Later, while face painting wound down and the cupcake line snaked around the gym, the DJ made an announcement. All right now, grown-ups, it's time for our parent-kid dance break. Grab your little one. Show us the moves. Lisa ran toward Keisha, panting. Mama, come dance with me. Keisha shook her head. I'm working the juice table, baby. Lisa turned on her puppy dog eyes. Pleasey. Keisha smiled. Go ask your doctor. Lisa spun on her heel and marched toward Jeff. Dr. Jeff. He turned, startled. Yes, Mum. Dance with me. Jeff blinked. Right now. Lisa grabbed his hand. Yes, Mama said so. From across the gym, Keisha raised her cup in mock salute. Jeff looked down at Lisa. I'm not a very good dancer. That's okay. I dance enough for both of us. She pulled him onto the floor. The beat dropped. Montel Jordan. Lisa immediately began to two-step, like her life depended on it. Jeff shuffled, awkward but committed. He clapped off beat. Tried to mirror her spins. Lisa beamed. You're doing it. I feel like I'm in a music video from 1995. You are. Keisha watched from the side, her arms crossed, but her mouth curved slightly. He looked ridiculous. His rhythm was all elbow, but his smile was real. And Lisa? Lisa looked happier than she had in weeks. The second song was slower. Al Green's Let's Stay Together. Lisa looked up at Jeff. This one's too slow. She turned to the edge of the dance floor. Mama, come. Keisha waved her off. I'm good, right here. Lisa stomped her light-up shoe. Come dance. Dr. Jeff needs help. The room chuckled. Keisha hesitated. Jeff gave her a shrug. Apparently I'm struggling. She rolled her eyes, but stepped forward. They met in the middle, under the dim basketball court lights. Lisa giggled and ran to the edge of the floor to dance with her friends. Leaving the two adults standing awkwardly in front of each other, Jeff cleared his throat. May I have this dance? Keisha smirked. You still offbeat from the last one. I promise not to spin. She placed her hand gently in his. They began to sway. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't romantic. It was hesitant, careful, like two people building trust one half step at a time. Jeff spoke first. I don't remember the last time I slow danced. I do, Keisha said. You stepped on my foot. He chuckled. That was not my fault. You dipped. You leaned. They fell quiet again. The music swelled. Jeff looked at her. Thank you. For what? For not pushing me out. Keisha shook her head. I'm not doing this for you. I know. It's still worth thanking you. She sighed. You're lucky Lisa has a soft heart. If it were just me, I wouldn't have made it past the front door, he finished. Keisha didn't deny it. They swayed in silence. Then Jeff asked, voice quiet, do you hate me? Keisha thought for a long moment. No, really? I don't have the energy to hate people anymore, she said. Especially not the ones I've outgrown. That one landed. Jeff nodded, eyes downcast. I'm trying, Keish. I really am. I see that. But I also know I can't erase anything. You can't, she said. And I'm not asking you to. What are you asking? Keisha met his eyes. To keep showing up, even when it's uncomfortable, even when she doesn't call you daddy, even when I don't make it easy. I can do that. We'll see. The song ended. They stepped apart. Jeff looked around. I think I need punch. Keisha smirked. Don't spike it. He walked off. She turned back toward Lisa, who was dancing with two other girls, laughing like the world was made of glitter and peace. Later that night, as they packed up folding chairs and wiped tables, Lisa ran to Jeff holding two lollipops. Here. He crouched. What's this? One for me, one for you. Because you danced. Jeff took it. I'll treasure this. Keisha walked over. Say thank you, baby. Lisa grinned. Thank you for dancing. Jeff smiled. Anytime. Keisha gave him a long look. See you next week. If you'll have me. She nodded. Not much, but enough. That night, Keisha journaled. We danced. We didn't step on each other's feet this time. He listened. I didn't flinch. Maybe co-parenting isn't about getting along. Maybe it's about growing up, together. She paused, then added one more line. I didn't expect to smile tonight, but I did. Sunday mornings used to be sacred in Keisha's house. Pajamas till noon. Gospel humming from the Bluetooth speaker. Lisa twirling in the living room with a spoon for a microphone. Keisha sipping instant coffee with just enough oat milk to make it bearable. Now, there was a new rhythm forming. One she hadn't planned for. One that involved knock-knock texts and slow trust. Can I pick her up around 10? Thought we'd hit the park. Yes. Don't forget her sunblock. It started once a week. Then it became every Sunday. Jeff showed up at Keisha's apartment with a backpack, snacks, hand wipes, and energy. Lisa would shout, "Dr. Jeff!" from the window when she saw his car pull up. Keisha would lean against the doorframe and hand over a list. Snack, inhaler, emergency contacts, water bottle. Please don't let her talk to pigeons. Jeff would smile. I promise nothing about the pigeons. Keisha never smiled back, not fully, but she didn't slam the door either. Progress. Central Park became their spot. Jeff learned the hard way that Lisa hated long walks, but loved climbing every boulder like it was Everest. He kept Band-Aids in his wallet after the first scraped knee. He learned which playground had the fastest slides, which hot dog stand sold strawberry lemonade, and which squirrel Lisa named Charles and considered her personal sidekick. They played I Spy. They told knock-knock jokes. They made up stories about strangers walking dogs. And one day, Lisa asked him, casual as sunshine, "Do you have a daughter?" Jeff blinked. "A daughter?" Lisa nodded. "Like, besides me?" Jeff knelt beside her on the bench. "No, just you." She squinted. "But I'm not really yours, right?" Jeff looked her in the eyes. "I didn't raise you, baby, but I am yours. If you'll have me." Lisa considered this, then shrugged. "You can be my Dr. Daddy. That's what I call you in my head anyway." Jeff's throat closed. He blinked quickly and cleared his throat. "I'd be honored." Lisa nodded. "But don't mess it up. I got standards." Jeff laughed. "You sound like your mama." "She says that too." Keisha didn't know about the Dr. Daddy thing yet, but she noticed changes. Lisa started telling stories that began with "we saw" instead of "I saw." She came home with little facts about Jeff, how he liked his hot dogs, how he was scared of frogs, how he once fell off a slide when he was 5 and cried for his grandma. "He's weird," Lisa concluded, "but good weird." Keisha listened, said little, but one Sunday, when Lisa was busy coloring, she glanced at Jeff. "She's softer now," she said, "since you started coming around." Jeff looked surprised. "Is that a good thing?" Keisha nodded slowly. "She used to act like she had to guard me, like she was always watching the door." Jeff swallowed. "I'm sorry." Keisha didn't reply, but her silence wasn't sharp. It was tired, honest. That silence was becoming a language between them. Jeff didn't just show up on Sundays. He started volunteering at Lisa's after-school program on Wednesdays. He read books aloud in his funny voices. Lisa beamed when he was in the room, not because she needed him, but because she was glad he was there. One afternoon, he walked into the program wearing mismatched socks. Lisa pointed and laughed. "Dr. Daddy, you forgot." He grinned. "My fashion sense is ahead of its time." The other kids laughed too. Keisha, sitting at the back helping with snacks, watched them from across the room. She said nothing, but her hands stopped moving for a second. She just watched. They weren't a family, not like that. Jeff didn't tuck Lisa in at night. He didn't eat dinner at Keisha's table. There were no sleepovers, no shared holidays, but something was growing. Not romance, not yet, but routine. Trust, a rhythm without sheet music. One Sunday evening, as Lisa lay asleep on the couch after a long day, in the park, Keisha stood by the window watching Jeff drive away. Her phone buzzed. "Thanks for trusting me with her." She stared at the screen. Typed back, "Thanks for not making it harder than it already is." No hearts, no warmth, but also no sarcasm. That was new. At school, Lisa made a drawing for her class journal. A big heart. Inside it, Mama plus me plus Dr. Daddy. Below it she'd written, "We don't match, but we laugh, and I feel safe." Her teacher called Keisha in. "I hope it's okay to say this, but your daughter seems deeply loved. However you're doing it, it's working." Keisha teared up in the car after that, not because she missed Jeff, but because somehow their daughter didn't have to. One Sunday, it rained. Hard. Jeff picked Lisa up with an umbrella, wrapped her in a raincoat, and promised not to let her puddle jump too long. When he brought her back, soaking wet but joyful, Keisha opened the door with a towel in her hand. Jeff stood on the mat, dripping. "Sorry." "She ambushed me." Lisa laughed. "He screamed like a wet cat." Jeff chuckled. "She's not lying." Keisha wrapped Lisa in the towel, kissed her forehead, then looked at Jeff. "You coming in?" He blinked. "What?" "Just to towel off. It's cold." He stepped in. She handed him another towel. "Thanks. Don't get comfortable," she warned. He raised both hands. Noted, they didn't talk much that day, but for a moment, the air wasn't tense. It was just Sunday. It started with a cough, soft at first, the kind you brush off as she slept with the window open. But by the third day, it lingered. By the fourth, it turned raspy. By the fifth, Keisha was sitting at the edge of Lisa's bed with a thermometer in one hand and a prayer on her lips. "Come on, baby. You're okay," she whispered. Lisa's skin was warm. Her breaths came short and shallow. She still tried to smile through it, that same brave little grin that always made Keisha ache. Keisha called her sister, but she was out of town. Then she sat in the living room staring at her phone, knowing the name she didn't want to dial was the one she needed to. "Jeff." She hesitated. 5 rings later, he answered, voice groggy but alert. "Keisha." "Lisa's wheezing again," she said. "I gave her the inhaler, but it's not helping much." His tone changed instantly. "I'm on my way." "How bad?" "Her breathing's fast. I was going to drive to urgent care." "Don't," he said quickly. "I'll meet you there. Midtown Pediatric ER. Go now." Keisha grabbed a sweater, wrapped Lisa in a blanket, and raced through Harlem traffic. Lisa whimpered softly in the back seat. "Mama." "Yes, baby?" "Dr. Daddy gonna come?" Keisha swallowed hard. "Yeah. He's coming." The hospital was bright and cold. Machines beeped. Nurses moved quickly, and the smell of antiseptic carried both fear and relief. Keisha stood at the check-in desk, filling out forms with shaking hands. Then she heard him. "Where is she?" Jeff jogged down the hall, coat half on, hair messy, eyes wide. He looked nothing like the polished man she once knew. He looked like a father racing time. "Keisha," he breathed out. "How long's she been like this?" "Since last night. Got worse this morning." He crouched beside Lisa immediately. "Hey, sunshine. Can you take a deep breath for me?" Lisa tried, coughed instead. He put a hand on her back, gentle but firm. "She's tight," he muttered. "We'll get her treated right away." A nurse came to lead them into triage. Jeff slipped on gloves like muscle memory and moved alongside the staff. He wasn't supposed to. Technically, this wasn't his patient, but nobody stopped him. His badge and his urgency said enough. Keisha stood back, hands clasped, watching the man who once said he wasn't ready for fatherhood move like he'd been preparing for this moment all along. An hour later, Lisa was hooked up to a nebulizer. Her breathing had steadied, though her small chest still rose and fell too fast. Keisha sat in the chair beside the bed. Jeff stood against the wall, silent. The nurse smiled. "She's improving. Another round of treatment and she'll be fine." Keisha exhaled for the first time all day. "Thank you." The nurse left. Silence filled the room, broken only by the faint hum of machines. Jeff rubbed his face. "You should have called sooner." "I didn't want to panic you," Keisha said. "You've got patience, a life." He looked at her, eyes raw. "She is my life." Keisha froze. He stepped closer, but kept his voice low. "I know I messed up years ago. I said things I can't unsay. But I'm here now. Whatever happens, whatever she needs, I'm not leaving again." Lisa stirred slightly, mumbling through the mask. "Dr. Daddy." Jeff leaned over. "Yeah, baby girl. I'm right here." Her tiny fingers reached for his sleeve and stayed there. He didn't move, didn't even blink. Keisha watched that small hand clutch his arm, watched the steadiness in him now that wasn't there before. And something shifted quietly inside her. Hours passed. Doctors came and went. The worst had passed, but Keisha refused to leave her daughter's side. She sat awake, eyes half-lidded, one hand on Lisa's ankle beneath the blanket. Jeff was still there. At first, she assumed he'd step out. Maybe grab coffee. Maybe go home. But he didn't. He took the chair beside hers, stayed through the hum of the ventilator and the whispers of nurses changing shifts. Around 2 a.m., Keisha spoke, voice rough with fatigue. "You don't have to stay." Jeff looked at her, then at Lisa sleeping soundly. "Yes, I do." Keisha leaned back. "You're not going to impress me by losing sleep." He shook his head. "It's not about you, Keish." She didn't argue. Minutes turned to hours. At one point, Lisa stirred, eyes fluttering open. "Mama." Keisha leaned forward. "Yeah, baby." Lisa turned her head, saw Jeff still there, and whispered through the mask, "He didn't leave." Keisha's throat tightened. "No, baby, he didn't." Lisa smiled faintly before drifting off again. Jeff looked up. She shouldn't have to wonder if people stay. Keisha didn't answer, but the corner of her mouth trembled. By sunrise, Lisa's breathing was easy. Her doctor came in, gave the all-clear for discharge by afternoon, and patted Jeff's shoulder like a colleague. "You did good catching it early," the doctor said. Jeff nodded. "She's a fighter." Keisha gathered Lisa's things while Jeff filled out paperwork. He moved quietly, efficiently, like this was the only thing that mattered. When they stepped outside into the cool morning air, Keisha finally spoke. "Last time I was in a hospital bed, you were celebrating your fellowship." Jeff stopped walking. "I know. I was giving birth alone." He closed his eyes for a second, shoulders tense. Then he said softly, "I can't change that day, but I'll spend the rest of my life making sure she never feels alone again." Keisha didn't respond. She just looked at him. Really looked. The man in front of her wasn't the boy she left behind. He'd lost the arrogance, the distance. What stood there now was patience, humility, and a kind of tenderness she'd once begged for. Lisa coughed lightly. Jeff instantly bent down, checked her face. "Still good?" She nodded. "Just sleepy." He smiled. "You earned a big breakfast." Keisha raised an eyebrow. "Hospital pancakes? Hey, they're character building." Lisa giggled weakly. "Can Mama come too?" Keisha hesitated. Jeff's eyes met hers, not pushing, not pleading, just waiting. After a beat, she sighed. "Fine, but I'm picking the place." Jeff smiled faintly. "Deal." They sat at a small diner down the street, the kind with chipped mugs and bacon that sizzled too loud. Lisa ate slowly, curls falling over her eyes. Jeff cut her pancakes into tiny pieces without being asked. Keisha watched, silently. She didn't trust easily. Not after what she'd lived through, but for the first time, she didn't feel like she was co-parenting with a ghost. She was co-parenting with a man who'd finally shown up. When they stepped outside, Lisa reached up, one hand for each of them. Jeff hesitated. Keisha looked at him, then down at their daughter. "Go ahead," she said quietly. Lisa smiled wide as their hands met above her head, her little fingers swinging between them. "See?" she said, giggling. "We make a bridge." Keisha and Jeff looked at each other over her head. For once, they didn't overthink it. They just walked, side by side, under the pale morning light. The sun climbed lazily over Harlem that Saturday morning, spilling golden light onto the sidewalks, still glistening from an early rinse of rain. The city was already humming, but inside Lisa Monroe's school cafeteria, the buzz had nothing to do with taxis or traffic. It was the annual family brunch, and this year Keisha had RSVP'd with a name she hadn't spoken in years, Jeff Donnelly. He stood near the entrance of the school cafeteria like a misplaced executive at a block party, hands in his pockets, jacket too nice for the event, eyes scanning for familiar faces, and one very specific little girl. "Jeff," Lisa's voice sliced through the low chatter like a trumpet. She came barreling toward him in a yellow hoodie dotted with cartoon cats, her curls bouncing with every step. "You made it." Jeff bent low, arms open. Wouldn't miss it for the world. She crashed into his chest, and he held her tightly, surprised by how much he meant it. Keisha stood a few feet away near the food tables, watching the moment like a scene she hadn't auditioned for. Her hair was swept up in a protective bun, and she wore a rust-colored sweater dress with quiet elegance. The moment Jeff's eyes met hers, they didn't speak. They just nodded. This wasn't about them. Not today. The cafeteria smelled like cinnamon and burnt coffee. Folding chairs scraped the linoleum. Teachers bustled around with clipboards. Students clung to parents' legs or zipped across the floor with juice boxes in hand. And there, at table 5, assigned to Monroe, Keisha's sisters were already seated. Auntie Tanya and Auntie Carla. Tanya, the younger of the two, wore oversized gold hoops and chewed a grape like it had offended her. Carla, in a pressed navy pantsuit, narrowed her eyes the second Jeff approached with Lisa. "Well," Tanya drawled, glancing from his sharp blazer to his uncomfortable smile. "If it isn't Dr. Dropout," Lisa laughed, loudly. "Auntie Tanya." "What?" Tanya shrugged. "I'm joking. Mostly." Jeff exhaled slowly, then extended a hand. "Good morning." Carla didn't take it. "You know we raised Lisa like our own when she was sick. You didn't come, so forgive us if we're a little cautious." "Told you," Tanya whispered behind her coffee cup. Jeff nodded once, then pulled out Lisa's chair and seated her gently before taking the open spot across from Keisha. "You don't have to forgive me today or tomorrow, but I'll keep showing up until the table doesn't tense when I sit down." Keisha glanced at him. That was unexpected. Lisa, oblivious to the adult tension, held up her plate like a prize. "Can I get a second muffin? Or is this a one-per-family kind of vibe?" Everyone laughed, even Carla. Jeff stood quickly. "I got you, Tiger. Blueberry or banana nut?" "Blueberry, with the crumbles on top." As he walked off, Tanya leaned toward Keisha. "So, you really invited him?" Keisha didn't flinch. "Lisa wanted him here." "That's not what I asked." "I know." Carla raised an eyebrow. "And you're okay with it?" Keisha sipped her lukewarm coffee. "I'm okay with Lisa not wondering where her father is today." The words landed heavy. Truth always did. Jeff returned, balancing 2 muffins and a chocolate milk like a circus act. Lisa whooped with joy. "Dang, Dr. Jeff got muffin skills." "Oh, I'm putting that on my resume." He smiled. Tanya rolled her eyes but bit into her croissant. the corners of her mouth twitching. Carla crossed her arms, then finally asked, "So, where have you been, Dr. Jeff?" Keisha turned slightly. This would be the real test. Jeff didn't dodge. In my own ego, my career, my comfort zone. All places that didn't have room for being a real father. Tanya blinked. Carla frowned. Keisha stilled. Jeff looked straight at them. I failed her. Failed all of you, really. But I'm not here to rewrite what happened. I'm just trying not to miss what's still ahead. For the first time all morning, Keisha saw her sisters soften. Lisa, mouthful of muffin, leaned over. "Mommy? I like him today." Keisha chuckled. "Today?" Lisa grinned. "We'll see how he ranks after the juice box challenge." "What's that?" Jeff asked, clearly intrigued. Lisa pulled a mini-pack from her backpack. "You gotta open the foil and insert the straw without using your hands." "Using what?" "My thoughts." "Nope, elbows only. Auntie Tanya's the champ." "Still undefeated," Tanya said smugly, lifting her juice like a trophy. And somehow, between muffins and mocking juice box battles and side eyes, Jeff started to feel welcomed. Not fully. Not yet. But the door wasn't locked anymore. Keisha noticed it too. As Lisa leaned into Jeff's side, her small hand resting on his arm while she bragged about her art project, Keisha saw the shift. Jeff wasn't posturing. He wasn't pushing. He was just present, and presence mattered more than any polished apology ever could. When the brunch ended, families trickled out under the grey sky, which now threatened another round of light drizzle. Lisa tugged at Jeff's hand. "Can we walk home, please?" Keisha paused. Jeff looked to her. "If it's okay with you," a beat. Then Keisha nodded. They walked down the school steps, the city alive around them. Keisha held Lisa's left hand, Jeff her right, and between them walked a child who had never asked for drama, declarations, or the past to be rewritten. All she wanted was for the people who said they loved her to stay. About halfway home, Lisa spotted a leaf shaped like a heart. She picked it up and handed it to Jeff. "You can keep this. You showed up." He took it, his throat tightening. "Thank you, Lisa." She skipped ahead, humming. Keisha walked beside him in silence. "I didn't come here to make you uncomfortable," Jeff said quietly. "You didn't," Keisha replied. "Not today." He glanced over, surprised. "That's good to hear, but this doesn't mean anything," she added quickly. "This isn't forgiveness. It's just brunch." He nodded. "And I'm grateful I was invited." She looked at him. "Lisa invited you. I tolerated it." A pause. Then Keisha sighed and added, "But you did okay." He smiled, softly. "I'll take okay." They walked the rest of the way without words, only the city speaking around them. Car horns, kids laughing on stoops, the sizzle of street food. Ordinary sounds that, today, felt like the soundtrack to a soft turning point. At the building entrance, Lisa turned and declared, "Next year, he's bringing the juice boxes. And the muffins." Keisha raised a brow. "You already planning the next brunch?" Lisa shrugged. "Duh. He's got good muffin energy." Everyone laughed. And as they stepped inside, Jeff lingered a moment longer at the door, still holding the heart-shaped leaf. It wasn't redemption, but it was something real. And sometimes that was enough to start again. It started with crayons. Red, blue, green, and the pink one Lisa always insisted wasn't pink, but bubblegum strawberry sunrise. She sat cross-legged on the living room rug, tongue poking out between her teeth as she focused. The homework instructions were simple. Draw your family. That morning, Keisha had tied Lisa's curls into 2 neat puffs before school. She wore a navy hoodie with glittering letters across the front. "Kind is cool." Her laughter echoed down the hallway as she explained to her mom that this wasn't just coloring. "This is a reflection exercise, Mommy," Lisa had said proudly, quoting her teacher, Ms. Camilla. "It shows how I see the people in my home." Keisha had nodded, smile tight. Now, hours later, Keisha stood in the doorway watching her daughter press crayons against paper with surprising certainty. She expected to see herself drawn front and center. Maybe Auntie Carla or Tanya squeezed in somewhere too. What she didn't expect was what Lisa handed her 10 minutes later. 3 stick figures, each with a name written carefully underneath in second grade scrawl. Mummy. Me. Dr. Daddy. Keisha blinked. Dr. Daddy. Lisa looked up, proud. I even gave you earrings and gave him his doctor coat. See the stethoscope? Keisha stared at the little circles scribbled onto Jeff's drawn chest. I see it, baby. Lisa tilted her head. Do you think he'll like it? Keisha swallowed hard. I think he might cry. Lisa grinned. Boys cry too, Mummy. That's what Auntie Carla says. Keisha folded the drawing slowly, her fingers trembling just a little. Lisa ran off to get her backpack ready for school, and Keisha sat on the couch for a full minute afterward, the weight of 8 crayons and 3 words sitting heavy in her chest. Dr. Daddy. By the time Jeff came by that evening to drop off the allergy supplements he'd picked up from his hospital, the sun had dipped low behind the buildings, casting soft peach light across the windows. Keisha opened the door in her grey slippers and oversized hoodie, hair in a loose wrap. She didn't expect to let him in, but she didn't close the door behind her either. She's still up? He asked gently. Keisha nodded. She's in her room, reading. Jeff handed her the paper bag. These are what we talked about. No dyes, no additives. She nodded again. But she didn't step back, didn't close the door, didn't say goodbye. Instead, she walked toward the living room and motioned for him to follow. Jeff took the cue like a man stepping across ice. Inside, Keisha handed him a folded paper. She drew this today. Homework. He took it, unfolded it, stared. A beat passed. Then, another. Then he chuckled, soft and broken. She gave me shoes. Look at that. I got brown dress shoes. Keisha didn't speak. Jeff's eyes flicked over the names written carefully beneath the figures. Mummy, me, Dr. Daddy. He traced the lines with his finger like they meant something holy. She's calling me that now? Keisha shrugged, arms crossed tightly. She started after the brunch. Jeff exhaled, low and slow. Wow. She said it on her own, Keisha added quickly. I didn't teach her that. I know you didn't. She asked me if it was okay, if calling you that was wrong. Jeff looked up. What did you say? Keisha's lips pressed into a thin line. I told her the truth. What truth? That I'm still learning how to feel about you, but she doesn't have to wait for me to decide. You're her father. If she wants to call you Dr. Daddy, she can. Jeff didn't move, just blinked, slowly. Thank you. Keisha finally sat down, the corner of the couch feeling safe. She's in a good place emotionally. She's healthy, curious, stable. Jeff sat opposite her, not too close. You've done a beautiful job, Keisha. Seriously. She looked away. Sometimes I feel like I've done too good a job, like she doesn't need anyone else. She does. Keisha looked at him sharply. Don't come in here making declarations. You weren't there for her first fever, or the time she broke out in hives from strawberries, and I panicked because I couldn't afford an ambulance. You weren't there when she cried for someone to read her a bedtime story, and I had a migraine and no help. So don't act like you just show up and become necessary. Jeff nodded slowly, took it. Let the silence hold. Okay, he said. Then let me ask this instead. Keisha raised an eyebrow. Can we do family therapy? She blinked. Excuse me? For Lisa, to help her process everything she's feeling. I'm not trying to step in like some fairy tale dad, but if she's drawing pictures with all of us, she's thinking about all of us, and I don't want to mess her up with my presence or my absence. Keisha didn't respond right away. She stared at him, searching for any trace of performance, ego, or polished guilt. She didn't find it. I already take her to play therapy once a month, she said quietly. I'd be happy to join you both, not to interrupt, just to witness, to participate if allowed. Keisha folded her arms tighter. And what happens if she starts getting used to this and you pull away again? I won't. You say that now. I know. That's why I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to let her feel safe. Even if you still don't trust me." The room stilled. Then Keisha whispered, "That's not fair." "I know it isn't." She stood, pacing a little. "You think therapy's just going to make it okay?" "No," Jeff said calmly. "I think therapy gives her language and a space to ask questions she might not ask you or me. I want her to have that. Don't you?" Keisha's shoulders dropped. "Yes," she said softly. "Of course I do." Jeff leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Keisha, I'm not trying to be your man." Her eyes lifted sharply. "I'm trying to be her father." Silence again. But this time, it was different. He had said it with no tremble, no charm, just truth. Keisha walked toward the doorway, unsure if she was dismissing him or needing to breathe. Jeff rose slowly. "She drew you in the middle," he added quietly. "Not me. That means something." Keisha turned, arms folded, voice quiet. "She's smart." Jeff nodded. "Yeah, she is." A few seconds passed. Then she sighed. "There's a session next Thursday, 4:15. We go after school." Jeff's eyes brightened, but he didn't smile. He simply said, "I'll be there." Keisha opened the door. "Good night, Jeff." He paused. "Good night, Keisha." She didn't say anything else as he walked out, just closed the door behind him and stood for a long time staring at the family, drawing still lying on the coffee table. 3 names, 1 truth. A new chapter was trying to be written. She just hadn't decided if she wanted to pick up the pen. The storm started just after lunch. First, it was the kind of drizzle you could almost ignore, the kind that played tag with your windshield wipers and made everything smell like damp concrete and tree bark. But by the time school dismissal approached, the sky had turned charcoal, and the clouds weren't asking for permission anymore. They poured. Keisha stood in the front hallway of Brighton Elementary, clutching Lisa's pink polka, dotted umbrella in one hand, and her daughter's costume garment bag in the other. Her curls had puffed from the humidity, and her black raincoat clung to her arms. "I should have let her stay home," she muttered, checking the time again. "You say that every year," Tanya teased from beside her, adjusting her own plastic poncho. "But you know she lives for this recital." She had a sniffle this morning. Tanya raised an eyebrow. "Girl, it was one sneeze." Keisha sighed. "I just don't want anything messing with her progress. She's got more vitamin C in her than a lemon grove. Let her shine." Just then, a teacher stepped out from the hallway and waved. "Parents, auditorium doors are open. Seating is first come, first serve." The hallway shifted into a slow shuffle. Parents unzipped coats, fixed headscarves, and adjusted cameras. Some rushed forward with tripods like they were covering the Oscars. Others filed in slow, quietly tired. Keisha followed the current garment bag hoisted high to avoid puddles on the tile. They found a seat 3rd row from the front. Not ideal, but better than the bleachers. Tanya whispered, "This crowd gets bigger every year. Brighton loves some musical theatre." Keisha didn't laugh. Her eyes were scanning the room. Every few seconds, her lips pressed tighter. Her hands fidgeted with the hem of her coat. "You think he's coming?" Tanya asked, gently. Keisha didn't answer. Because she didn't want to lie. Did she expect Jeff to come? Not really. He had texted the night before. "Can you remind me what time the recital is?" She'd responded curtly, 6 p.m. sharp. Brighton Elementary. Gymnasium. He had hearted the message. No promises. No, "I'll be there." So Keisha sat and waited. The lights dimmed 15 minutes later. An announcement was made. A few toddlers screamed. The curtains pulled open, and the show began. Lisa was part of the second group. They were doing a musical number from The Wiz, child-safe version. Sparkly shirts, black leggings, red Converse sneakers. When she stepped out, center stage in the front row, Keisha's heart stuttered. There she was, her baby, all ponytail and confidence, all gap-toothed grin and sharp rhythm. When the music started, Lisa hit her mark without hesitation. Every clap, every step, every spin, she was on time, alive and glowing. Keisha felt tears pricking the corners of her eyes. And then, over the sound of the music and applause, she heard it. One voice, louder than the rest. "Go, Lisa." She turned, and there he was. Jeff Donnelly, soaked to the bone, hair dripping, shirt clinging to his chest, slacks damp from ankle to knee. He was standing near the back, hands cupped around his mouth, grinning like a fool. "That's my girl." Lisa heard him. She smiled wider. Keisha blinked in disbelief. He didn't just come, he had run through that rain. No coat, no umbrella, just a drenched man who refused to miss another moment. The number ended. Thunderous applause followed. Lisa bowed low, proud, and when the group exited stage left, she peeked back once more to see if she had imagined it. She hadn't. He waved. She blew a kiss. Keisha looked down at her lap, unsure what part of her chest was tight, gratitude or fear. The rest of the show blurred. When the house lights finally came back on, parents scrambled toward the student holding area. Keisha made her way slowly, boots squeaking on the wet floor. Lisa came bounding out seconds later, still full of performance adrenaline. "Mommy, did you see me spin?" "I saw, baby. You were incredible. And Dr. Daddy came." Keisha smiled. "I saw that too." Lisa looked behind her. "Where'd he go?" Keisha turned, just in time to see Jeff wiping his glasses with the edge of his shirt. Still drenched, still standing. She walked toward him. "You're soaked." "I know," Jeff said, smiling sheepishly. "Didn't want to miss it." Keisha shook her head. "You could have called. I would have told you it was pouring. I saw the weather app, but by the time I left the clinic, it was already coming down hard. I figured I'd rather be wet than late." Lisa ran over and hugged his leg. "You came even in the rain." Jeff squatted. "Of course, nothing could keep me away from seeing you shine." She giggled and patted his cheeks. "You need a towel." Keisha stood watching them, something soft shifting in her chest. Familiar, but not comforting yet. They walked to the parking lot together, Lisa skipping ahead, reciting lyrics from the song. Keisha and Jeff followed, slow. "I forgot how loud I can be at school events," Jeff said, chuckling. "You were cheering like she just won the Super Bowl." She kinda did. The rain had slowed to a drizzle again. Jeff walked her to her car. As she opened the trunk to place Lisa's costume bag inside, Jeff paused. "I remembered the song," he said quietly. Keisha turned. "What?" "The one from the dance. Brand New Day. From The Wiz. Lisa made me watch it with her on YouTube 2 weeks ago." Keisha stared at him. "I remembered it because she made me learn the choreography too, in socks. On your living room rug." He smiled. "She didn't. Not at first. Then she whispered, 'You remembered her favorite song.'" Jeff's expression shifted, like she'd handed him a key he didn't expect to earn. "I'm trying, Keisha," he said. "Not just to show up, but to stay tuned in. To show up the way she needs. The way I never did before." Keisha looked at him, really looked. Wet hair, wrinkled shirt, clear eyes. "I noticed," she said softly. A long beat passed. Then Lisa popped her head up from the back seat. "Are you gonna stand there forever?" They both laughed. Jeff stepped back. "I'll let you get home. Text me when you're both in." Keisha nodded. "Okay." She paused before closing the door. "Thanks for coming." In the rain, Jeff gave her a little shrug. "Thanks for letting me be the one she was happy to see." She got in, started the engine, pulled off slow. In the rear view, Lisa hummed her solo line again, eyes heavy with sleep, and Jeff stood in the lot behind them, soaked but smiling. The morning was still, one of those rare Saturdays where time didn't feel rushed, and the sun filtered softly through the blinds of Keisha's apartment. Lisa was curled up on the rug, still in her cartoon pajamas, humming, to herself, while gluing glitter to a homemade poster about Earth Day. Keisha stirred her tea absent-mindedly at the kitchen counter, the steam curling up into the air. But her thoughts weren't with her cup. They were tangled in last night's conversation. Jeff had stayed after the recital. not just to say great job or drop off flowers like a visitor. He had stayed to help fold the metal chairs, wipe Lisa's sticky hands, and wait with them in the parking lot until the Uber came through because the rain had shorted out traffic. And he hadn't reached for her hand, hadn't asked for anything more than presents. There was something honest in that, something steady. Keisha had spent years learning how to move without him, to plan birthday parties without sending him an invite, to memorize doctor's office hours, dance class times, and preferred meal textures without input from anyone but her child. And yet, she walked to the fridge to pull out almond milk for Lisa's cereal and paused mid-reach. A drawing. It hadn't been there yesterday. She'd cleared the fridge to make space for Lisa's new behavior chart from school. But now, tacked neatly with a strawberry magnet, was a folded sheet of wide-ruled notebook paper. Crayon lines. Keisha opened it slowly. It was a family portrait. 3 stick figures. One wore glasses, with a brown triangle of hair in a puff. Mama, written above in a loopy purple scrawl. One had long legs, a wide grin, and little pigtails. Clearly Lisa. She'd even added herself holding a wand, labelled Lisa the Helper, and next to them, a tall figure in a white coat and stethoscope. Dr. Daddy. Keisha felt her hand falter. The name cut her in half and healed her in the same breath. Lisa had never called him that. Not to her face. Not even in therapy. But it meant she'd said it to someone. Maybe her favorite teddy bear. Maybe the mirror. Maybe her teacher. And somewhere in the quiet corners of her heart, Lisa had claimed him. Not as dad, not even as father, but as something real, something hers. Keisha sat down at the table, journal open in front of her. The one she hadn't touched in over 6 months. The leather one with the words still, I rise, etched on the front. It had been a gift from her friend Monique when Lisa turned 3 and Jeff was still just a shadow. She hadn't written in it because there hadn't been time, but now words spilled like a flood. March 16th. I think I'm learning that forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting. I haven't forgotten the pain, or the long nights, or how scared I was the first time Lisa had a fever and I cried because the ER copay was $300. But I'm tired of dragging anger around like a suitcase with a broken wheel. Jeff is showing up. I don't know what that means long term, but my daughter smiles when he walks into a room. And today, she called him Dr. Daddy in a drawing. I cried. I'm crying now, not because it hurts, but because it finally doesn't. I don't know if this is love, but it's peace, and I'll take that. Keisha. She closed the journal, gently. Outside, Lisa's voice piped up. Mama, do you think tigers eat glitter? Keisha chuckled. Only the stylish ones, baby. Lisa giggled and kept working on her poster. Her curls bounced with every excited scribble. Keisha looked again at the drawing on the fridge. She didn't remove it. She didn't hide it in a drawer or file it under emotions. I don't know what to do with. She let it stay. There was no denying it anymore. Healing didn't need a ring. Forgiveness didn't need a dinner proposal. Lisa hadn't asked for her parents to be together. She just wanted them both present. She wanted the mama who knew how to braid her hair and rub her chest with eucalyptus when her nose got stuffy. And she wanted the man who kept a frog sticker in his lab coat for her bravery shots and who had learned to let her finish her sentences even when she talked in long, winding stories. Keisha had wanted definition, clarity, a label, but her child had already found it. Dr. Daddy. It was clumsy and honest and perfectly accurate. She didn't need to reframe what happened. She didn't even need to rewrite the past. She just needed to honor what was. Right now. Later that afternoon, Jeff texted, Jeff, hey, I found a used copy of that spacebook Lisa wanted. Mind if I drop it off later? Keisha looked at the message for a long time. Before, she might have questioned the motive, wondered if he was trying to impress her, show off, undo the past in some big dramatic gesture. But this was small, consistent, presence. She typed back slowly. Keisha, sure. Front porch is fine. She'll be excited. Jeff, Thanks. Also, I saw that her Crocs were getting tight. Want me to pick up the next size? I don't mind. She smiled. Keisha, that would help. She wears a 10 now. No extra words. No. How are you? No overstepping. Just logistics. But warm ones. Lisa ran in 10 minutes later with a toilet paper roll taped to a box and announced it was a telescope. Mama, I'm gonna look for aliens, she declared. Keisha watched her daughter beam with pure light. She felt that same strange sensation again, like something old in her chest had finally stopped clenching. Forgiveness had once felt like betrayal, but now it felt like surrendering the war she'd waged against herself. That night, after Lisa had fallen asleep with glitter on her forehead and a sticker book curled under her arm, Keisha stood in the hallway, staring at the drawing on the fridge. 3 stick figures, no title, no perfect outline, just one girl and the 2 people she believed in. And suddenly, that was enough. It started as a CO parenting strategy lunch, nothing fancy, just a neutral place halfway between her apartment and the hospital. A spot with good parking, a kid's menu in case Lisa wanted to tag along, and booths that gave enough privacy if the conversation got awkward. But today, Lisa was at her cousin's for the afternoon. So it was just them. Keisha had chosen the diner. Not because it was romantic, God no, but because it was familiar. She'd nursed Lisa through a high fever with soup from here. The waitress knew her order by heart. It wasn't a place filled with emotional landmines. But when Jeff walked in, it didn't feel like logistics anymore. It felt like a moment. He looked relaxed, not overdressed like the gala night, not in scrubs like their hospital meetings. Just jeans, sneakers, and a deep grey Henley. His beard had grown in a bit, just enough to remind her he wasn't the clean cut college senior she used to steal kisses from during study breaks. He was a man now, and he looked like he'd been through life and come back with softer eyes. Keisha smoothed her curls with her palm and stood. Hey, he said gently, meeting her halfway. Hey. They sat. Menu open, but neither read it. You still get the tuna melt with no onions? He asked, glancing up with a small grin. Keisha blinked, then smirked. Look at you remembering details. I remember everything, he said, and then immediately looked down, as if regretting the weight of his own truth. The waitress came, sensing the odd tension but keeping her smile warm. They ordered. Small talk. Weather. Lisa's recent obsession with frogs. Keisha mentioned she'd been trying to read her bedtime stories in funny voices now. Jeff chuckled, and admitted he'd tried to do a pirate voice once, and Lisa laughed so hard she snorted. But underneath the laughter, there was something else. A pull. Not romantic in the traditional sense, but a kind of quiet magnetism that happens when people have shared both pain and progress. Jeff leaned back, hands around his mug. I've been thinking, he began, eyes on the condensation dripping down his water glass, about how I used to rush things. Fix, solve, win. Keisha folded her hands in her lap, listening. And how maybe... He paused, then looked at her. Maybe parenting isn't something you win. Maybe it's just something you keep showing up for. She didn't respond right away. The words landed between them like an offering. That's the first thing you've said that didn't feel like a performance, she finally said. He nodded. I mean, it... The food arrived. They ate quietly for a bit. The silence wasn't heavy. It was cautious. Lisa told me she calls me Dr. Daddy, Jeff said, chewing thoughtfully. Keisha looked up. She tell you that? No, she said, then smiled softly. She drew it. He grinned. I like it. It sounds like a comic book hero. She sees you like one. That's a good thing. Jeff's expression shifted then. Something between humility and heartbreak. Do you... Keisha tilted her head. Do I what? See me that way? Still? It was the kind of question that would have triggered a fight 2 years ago, or a shutdown. But now it just hovered. I don't know, she said honestly. I don't see you like I used to. That man, he left when I needed him most. He broke me in 1,000 quiet ways. Jeff swallowed hard. I know. But, she continued, I also see the man who came back, who keeps showing up, who listens when Lisa talks about bugs and sings the wrong lyrics to her favorite songs, who doesn't try to fix me, just respects where I am. He nodded, quietly. That's not nothing, she added. No, it's not. They paused again. Then Jeff chuckled. Remember that one lunch in college where you yelled at the waiter for putting cheese on your salad? Keisha gasped, laughing. I did not yell. You were passionate. I was hungry and lactose sensitive. They both burst into laughter. Loud, unapologetic, heads turned. Neither cared. When the laughter died down, Jeff leaned in just slightly. Can I say something without it meaning anything I'm not trying to mean? Keisha raised an eyebrow, amused. That's a mouthful. I mean, can I just say something without it being a proposition or a hint or a what are we kind of thing? She nodded. Say it. I like being around you again. Keisha's lips parted just slightly. But she didn't deflect, didn't minimize. I like it too, she admitted. Sometimes, he chuckled. Fair. The check came. Jeff reached for it, but Keisha slid her card in first. He gave her a look. Parenting lunch, she reminded him. Not a date. He raised both hands. Understood, but there was a softness in his eyes. They stepped outside. The breeze was cool, carrying the scent of early spring and newly bloomed dogwoods. Keisha wrapped her light jacket tighter. Jeff walked beside her to the car. Thanks for lunch, he said. Thanks for not making it weird, she said. Did I flirt too much? Little bit, she teased. But I let you, he smiled. Keisha unlocked her door but didn't get in right away. Jeff shifted on his feet. You okay? Yeah, she said, meeting his eyes. I just needed to know I could be around you and not feel like I'm betraying myself. His face grew serious. And I'm learning I can, she said, with boundaries, with patience, with grace. Jeff's voice was low. I'll take all three. They stood there for a beat too long. Then Keisha opened her door. See you Tuesday. Pediatric check-in, she said. I'll be there. With stickers. She rolled her eyes, grinning. Of course you will. As she pulled away, Jeff watched her car disappear around the bend. And for the first time since they'd met again, he didn't chase the moment. He just let it be what it was. That night, Keisha sat on her balcony, sipping chamomile tea. Lisa was asleep. The stars above were faint but visible, peeking through Atlanta's city haze. She opened her journal. March 19th. It wasn't a date, but it felt good. Not because of butterflies, but because I didn't flinch when he laughed. I didn't freeze when he complimented my earrings. I didn't feel the urge to prepare for disappointment. We just shared food and laughter and silence. Maybe healing isn't about relabeling people. Maybe it's just about letting them show up again, one lunch at a time. No pressure, no declarations, just peace. And right now, that's enough. Keisha. It started with a croissant. Not just any croissant, either. The one from La Petite Bloom, the little French bakery on the corner of Maple and 10th. The one Keisha used to grab on quiet Sunday mornings before Lisa. Before everything changed. Now, Lisa loved it too. She called it her circle moon bread. This morning, though, Keisha had packed the croissant into Lisa's recital day lunchbox as a reward. It was a big day, and Lisa had worked hard. She'd practiced her solo for weeks, through stage fright, a little cough scare, and late nights when she whispered, I'm not ready, into Keisha's arms. But now, the gymnasium of Hillbrook Elementary was filled with fold-out chairs, excited families, and the smell of hairspray, juice boxes, and anticipation. Keisha sat in the second row, alone at first. She wore a light blue cardigan over her floral dress and kept glancing toward the side entrance. Hey, she turned. Jeff stood there, holding a single rose and a small umbrella. His hair was damp from the weather. Rain had started as a whisper, and now came steady and sure. "You made it," she said, standing. "Rain couldn't stop me." They exchanged a smile, something unspoken passing between them. Jeff took the seat beside her. "I saw her backstage," he said. "She looks ready." "She is. Nervous but excited." "You, terrified," Keisha admitted, laughing softly. Jeff looked around. "These tiny chairs don't get more comfortable, do they?" Keisha chuckled. "Nope. But you learn to ignore the back pain when your kid's about to sing 'This Little Light of Mine' in front of 80 strangers. Jeff leaned closer. "I'd sit on hot coals if it meant seeing her shine." She blinked. Words like that used to knock her defenses loose. But now, they simply added warmth to a place healing had already begun. The lights dimmed slightly. The principal made her usual welcome speech. Then the children filed onto the makeshift stage. Lisa was fourth in line, wearing her yellow rain boots and a sparkly hairband. Keisha laughed under her breath. She insisted on the boots, said they made her brave. "They make her iconic," Jeff whispered back. When it was Lisa's turn, she hesitated. The mic stood too tall. A teacher adjusted it. Then she stepped forward, clutching a small stuffed frog from her pocket, a comfort item. And then she sang. It wasn't perfect. Her pitch wobbled. She forgot a line, but she smiled the whole time. And when she sang the chorus again, she pointed right at her mom. And then at Jeff. He clapped like the roof might fly off. Keisha laughed in embarrassment, but also pride. After the show, chaos reigned. Parents hugged kids. Teachers gave directions about jackets and lunchboxes. The gym buzzed with noise. Keisha finally found Lisa near the juice table, boots and all. "You did it, baby," she said, scooping her into a hug. Lisa beamed. "Did you hear when I pointed to you?" "We sure did," Jeff said, appearing beside them. "I almost knocked the chairs over clapping." Lisa giggled. Jeff handed her the rose. "For the star of the show." "Ooh," she said. "Mama, can I put it in water when we get home?" "Absolutely." They made their way out of the gym. The rain was softer now, a mist more than a pour. Jeff opened the umbrella. "I'll cover you both." But Lisa darted out ahead. "It's just sky water." Keisha shook her head. "This child." They walked slowly. No rush. No agenda. Just the three of them. "Did you see the boots?" Lisa asked mid-step. "We saw," Keisha replied. "You wore them like they were made of gold." "They're lucky," Lisa said. "I wore them on my birthday too." Jeff looked at Keisha, remembering that day, how far they'd come since then. As they reached the bakery's corner, Lisa pointed. "Can we go in?" "For moon bread." Jeff looked at Keisha. She shrugged. "Why not?" Inside, the bakery smelled like heaven. Cinnamon, butter, warm dough. The windows fogged from the weather outside. They ordered 3 croissants, 2 hot chocolates, and a black coffee. Found a booth near the window. Lisa peeled her pastry carefully and said, "This is my happy spot." Jeff smiled. "Ours too." There was a pause. Then Lisa, mid-bite, said, "I have 2 parents." Keisha and Jeff looked at each other. "I have 2 parents," Lisa repeated, now sitting up straight, as if presenting in class. "They don't match, but they love me." Silence. Tears brimmed in Keisha's eyes. Jeff reached into his pocket for a napkin, then just passed it to her wordlessly. Lisa took another bite, then leaned against her mother. The three sat there for a long time. A family, not by definition, not by marriage, not by forced reconciliation, but by presence, by love, by showing up, one croissant at a time. Some stories don't need neat endings. No ring, no kiss, no flashback to the first dance. Just a table, a little girl with crumbs on her lips and sparkles in her eyes. A mother who finally believes she's enough. A father learning how to stay, not just arrive. Love doesn't always come in the packages we expect. It doesn't always follow the scripts we were taught. But when it shows up with patience, tenderness, and a croissant in hand, you don't ask for more. You just say thank you. And you stay. If this story reminded you that love doesn't need labels to be real, drop a comment below, one croissant at a time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartwarming stories that celebrate real love, healing, and second chances.